Let us not assassinate this lad further, Senator. You've done enough. Have you no sense of decency, sir? At long last, have you left no sense of decency?
Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David Crayden. Why did I play that at the beginning? Does Justin Trudeau have no sense of decency? I've compared him to Joe McCarthy in the past because Joe McCarthy was actually right about a lot of things. He was right about a lot of communist infiltration. His methods were horrible, though. Justin Trudeau is wrong when he smears the reputations of conservative MPs and basically anybody in his path. His reputation is in tatters. But Trudeau is wrong, and his methods are also wrong. And he's coming back to the House this week to an uproar. He's coming back to a lot of anger, not just from conservative MPs who resent being smeared, rightfully, but from his Liberal caucus who wants him out of there. We'll have more about that when we come back in a minute.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need to resolve to resist.
Yes, please like the station right now. Support us if you can. Subscribe if you haven't, and resubscribe if you need to do that. Happens all the time to people who subscribe to stations like this. And I appreciate your support. Thank you. And Sasha always supported this station. And ring the bell, like the station. It beats the YouTube suppression. We're doing it. It took a year and a half, and I'm serious about this. You know, I started this station a year and a half ago, and it's been nothing but suppression from day one. And we finally seem to have broken that barrier, that ceiling. And we're getting the news out, getting you all the news you need to know. Now, I want to show some clips here. And I hate showing other people's clips. I'd rather do original news. And at least you get commentary here that is original. But I'm showing these clips not because I think this is good journalism, not because I think this is good commentary, but to show you the state of journalism today in the mainstream media and how bad it is. And the people on here, and for the life of me, I can't figure out why CTV anchor Vasi Kapelos has so many people in the conservative movement who just think she's wonderful. She's the patron saint for so many YouTubers out there. I have no idea why. She just does her job. Usually. Sometimes she doesn't. Sometimes she's in the bag for Trudeau. Sometimes she's in the bag for climate change legislation. She asks some good, tough questions sometimes. But that's what journalists are supposed to do. And a lot of people have forgotten that, unfortunately. But I want to show you how bad the commentary is, because none of the people on these clips, have a clue what's going on with Justin Trudeau, the Liberal Party, or the House of Commons, because they're not there.
Fewer of them in the case of my own party, but there are safe seats in the country.
And the statement that NSICOP makes is
that was a joke. You guys can laugh.
The Prime Minister this week with a joke there about two recent significant by-election losses for the Liberals, a moment of levity in a week that was full of anything but. Several sources tell CTV News a group of backbench MPs are working together to formally ask Justin Trudeau to step aside as Liberal leader, and they plan to verbally convey their concerns to him at Caucus this Wednesday. And one MP is already going on the record, publicly saying it's time for Trudeau to go.
My constituents are saying that they cannot vote for him. And I felt that I owed it to them to say that in a public manner and not as an undisclosed source. And that's why I did what I did.
Now, those comments come as four more cabinet ministers announced just days ago they won't seek re-election in the next federal election. The minister responsible for the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, Philomena Tassi, is one of those ministers, as is Sports Minister Carla Qualtrough, National Revenue Minister Marie-Claude Bibeau, and Northern Affairs Minister Dan Van Daal. Since the summer, that brings the number of cabinet ministers announcing they won't run again to 6, half of whom stated they're leaving for personal reasons. Our Sunday strategy session is here to dig into what all of that means for the Prime Minister and his leadership. Kathleen Monk is a former Director of Communications to the late Jack Layton. Corey Teneycke was Ontario Premier Doug Ford's campaign manager and former Director of Communications for Prime Minister Stephen Harper. And Scott Reid is a former Communications Director to Prime Minister Paul Martin. Hi, everybody.
These people have been out of the loop for so long. You all, I mean, these people are basically consultants. Some of them lobbyists. I know Corey Teneycke quite well. I worked with him at Sun News. A very unhappy experience for me. That was probably the best venture, though, he ever tried, was to get conservative media out there on television. But Corey's not associated with the Conservative Party today in any real way. Certainly not with the official opposition. And these people are grasping at straws and trying to find something. So, but if you miss the point here, we've got probably 50 members of the Liberal caucus who have signed a petition. They're going to confront Justin Trudeau this Wednesday, and we'll see what happens. Are they going to have the guts and the moxie to really demand he resigns? Well, let's just listen to the state of political commentary in Canada.
We meet again. Corey, I'll start with you. If you look at all that we just laid out, what do you think the impact on the Prime Minister's leadership is or will be?
Well, nothing good, that's for sure. Talk about having a bad week. Whether it'll make a difference or not, I guess time will tell. We'll see. But having a mini caucus revolt is not something any leader is stronger for having gone through. And losing former cabinet ministers, it's well, I don't think they're joining a revolt against him. I think they're doing what a lot more people are probably going to do, which is just quietly look for the exit and get out of there before the whole thing falls down. So. Look, all the polling says the Prime Minister should leave. What's in the best interest of his party certainly indicates that he should leave. Increasingly, people who are worried about losing their seat are going to be saying he should leave. Whether he will leave or not is, I guess, the question. And
well, thank you for that, Corey. That I think anybody could have come up with that summation. In fact, I'd rather hear just about anybody in the comments section right now appear on Vassey's show and offer their opinion of things, because it would probably be a little more enlightening than what we just heard from Corey. I just find this absolutely incredible. This is the commentary. Yeah, that's pretty damn obvious. Does anybody here have any clue what's really going on with Justin Trudeau? Not at all. Not at all. Let's listen to a bit more. I can only stand so much of these.
So far, the answer's been no.
To Corey's point, Scott, those cabinet ministers certainly, talked about their own reasons for.
Scott Reid, if you recall, worked for Paul Martin, and you might remember when Stephen Harper had a little sort of a subsidy available for Canadian families. He called it a beer and popcorn subsidy, because he said Canadians are not responsible enough to know what to do with their money. And if they get a little cash back from the government from their taxes, they get a tax refund back, it's going to be spent on beer and popcorn. That's Scott Reid's opinion of the Canadian people. Scott Reid hasn't really had an end with the Liberal Party, or certainly with the Liberal government, since Paul Martin was Prime Minister. That's before Stephen Harper. This is ancient material, folks.
For leaving, but I can tell you, all the MPs I spoke to on that day conveyed to me there will be many more MPs who make a similar decision. That seemed to be something multiple people were reacting to the news with. What does that tell you?
Well, look, the old Bob Dylan song. It's not dark yet, but it's getting there, and that increasingly describes the situation around the Prime Minister. We don't know exactly what's going to happen next week. We don't know if in the middle of this whole international crisis with India and everything else that's going on, that you're going to see 30 people stand up and demand that he quit in his own caucus. But those people are there. That is undeniable. And so, the challenge for the Prime Minister is that since June 24th, which he's joking about, there's been nothing. And that vacuum has been filled with frustration on the part of the backbench, where they're saying, well, are we to just go gently into that good night? Maybe not. Maybe we need to push back. And I think it's really less of a revolt than more of a reaction to the non-response from the Prime Minister and those around him about how they're going to make an adjustment, what they're going to do. Is there a plan to...
Now, have you noticed one thing here? Neither Corey Tenike nor Scott Reid have even mentioned the fact that Trudeau has been on a distraction kick ever since things got worse and this petition began to circulate amongst the Liberal MPs. Nothing about how Justin Trudeau tried to distract your attention to India, first of all. And by the way, do you notice that's slowly receding? It's suddenly no longer like the issue of the hour. That the Indian diplomats are no longer going to be public enemy number one. The issues, they're trying to bury it right now. This is just so obvious. If you know anything about how politicians behave and about how the communication strategy works, and I worked in communications for years, decades actually. So I know what I'm talking about. The idea here is to let the cat out of the bag, but put everything away very quietly when you find out it's not working and you find out the distraction might not be worth the economic cost of losing our trade ties with Canada and the political cost of looking like a fool while you're supporting Khalistani terrorists. That is what is happening with Justin Trudeau right now in this whole India thing. But none of these people are even mentioning the fact that Justin Trudeau is coming back not only to a caucus revolt this week, they're going to confront him in caucus on Wednesday morning. But he's coming back to a lot of very angry conservative MPs who don't like the fact that Trudeau maligned them and smeared them.
And so I really do think that more and more people are going to say, all right, forget it then. I'm not going to run again. Some will gather and step forward and say he shouldn't run again. But all of it has the great, absolutely distinct odor of fin de regime around it.
Kathleen, I think the Prime Minister this week, seemed to tacitly try and send a message or acknowledge what Scott just mentioned, and then send a message that there is fight in the way that he sort of navigated the foreign interference inquiry and leveled some pretty serious accusations at the Conservative Party. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, right away, the next day, the story was 4 cabinet ministers are leaving, despite the reasons that they're putting forward. Do you think the conversation around the Prime Minister is ultimately changing, because they have remained very steadfast until now in their insistence he will be leading the party into the next election?
So what we're hearing from inside, Liberal circles and around Parliament Hill is that they are planning to fight. But you kind of have to wonder, they didn't fight after Toronto St. Paul's. They didn't really put out the fight after Nanaimo Caucus this past summer, and not again after losing LaSalle Verdun. So what has changed? Certainly there's more blood in the water after the announcement of these 4 cabinet ministers that are not going to reoffer again. And the sharks are circling.
The sharks are circling. Damn, this is the best commentary of all 3. And this is an NDP communications person who worked for Jack Layton. I think she's the only one who's got a sense of reality here. Instead of saying, yeah, I read the papers last week. I've been watching television too. I think Justin's in trouble. She's the only one to actually say the sharks are circling. They smell blood. But do they have the guts to fight? Do they have the moxie to stand up to Trudeau? Now, you might say, who wouldn't stand up to Trudeau? This man has such incredible personal power within the Liberal caucus. You talk to people, and I remember, even before Justin Trudeau was Prime Minister, even before he was opposition leader, and actually he never was. He was a third party leader. If you were in the opposition lobby and Justin Trudeau entered the room, his serfs, his servants tried to clear the path for Justin Trudeau. They were so sycophantic. They were so on their knees to Justin Trudeau, who was their deliverer. He was their prophet. He was their sun king. That they would say, get out of the way. I was in the conservative lobby at the time. It's watching this. It was just incredible to see how they would move people out of the way because the great one was arriving. Justin Trudeau was arriving. So that is the sort of magnetism that Justin Trudeau has amongst his caucus, his MPs. So for 50 of them to stand up to him and say, it's time to go, that's a start. That's a beginning. And if they confront him on Wednesday, this could unravel very quickly for Justin. We might have an historic breakdown. That's what the title is about today. We might see the breakdown of not only the Liberal government, but Justin Trudeau personally. He might have a literal breakdown this week because he's incapable of dealing with the fact he's unpopular. That's what it comes down to.
So what's going to happen next Wednesday? And I think the questions you have to ask yourself is when this, rumor revolt comes to, the fore, how many people are there? Is it 20? Is it 30? If it's 50, it's almost game over. But how large will it be? And the second question is, who are they? Are they people of import? Like, do Canadians know them? I would argue that Canadians didn't really know those 4 cabinet ministers that just announced they're not going to resign. And also, what will these caucus members, these backbenchers that are going to call for Justin Trudeau to resign actually do? Will they sit as independents? Will they possibly vote against the government? Will they vote with the Conservatives maybe on a non-confidence motion? That would be more damning. But we have to obviously see a plan. And if they don't come to caucus with a plan this Wednesday and instead just kind of once again put their fingers in their ears and cover their eyes and ignore the reality on the ground, they're in a lot of trouble. Not just the poll trouble, but they're in trouble facing possible even greater revolt.
That was easily the best part of this commentary. I won't show any more. It's agonizing to watch these other two attempt to make points. It really is difficult viewing. But I want to get into, as I said, we're down to 2 weeks away. Tomorrow, it's 2 weeks away from the U.S. election. I know some of you don't think it matters. It matters. If Donald Trump is reelected, I know there's been 4 years in between his last stint as president, the end of his last stint as president, and his potential reelection in November. Yes, there's 4 years, but he is going for a reelection. It's only happened once in American history where a U.S. president has run, lost, then tried again a third time. It was run 3 times and won the second time. Only happened once with Grover Cleveland in the 1890s. He was a Democratic president. When the Democratic Party was a very different party in those days than it is now. But generally seen as a fairly no-nonsense president. But that's the only other guy who did this. And so Justin Trump would be re-elected in November because he's been there before. A lot of people say, well, he's not being re-elected because he didn't win the last time. Well, that's neither here nor there. It would be the re-election. So I want to show you a bit. Sky News out of Australia always has some really funny stuff. Did you know, for instance, that Kamala Harris skipped the Al Smith dinner? Now, if you know anything about American politics, Al Smith was the first Roman Catholic nominated by the Democratic Party, by any major party. I mean, I'm not even sure a minor party nominated a Roman Catholic for president. But this was the first time the Democrats did, long before, 30 years plus. This is 1928. This is 32 years before the nomination of John F. Kennedy, who was the first successful presidential candidate who was Roman Catholic. Al Smith was nominated in 1928. It was not a Democrat year. This was a Republican year. He was mowed over by Herbert Hoover. But his name and his reputation has spawned a lot of good works over the years. And the Al Smith dinner is about raising money for Catholic charities, but it's also a chance for politicians to get together and make fun of each other, which is something Kamala Harris can't do because she does a good job of that herself, making fun of herself all the time. Let's just watch a bit of this.
And immediately after Kamala's fumbled Fox interview, she and her team made the foolish decision to skip the Al Smith dinner in New York, which allowed Donald Trump to command the spotlight and double down on criticism of her, reveals Sky News All-Star Steve Price.
I tell you where I wanted to be today. It was the best television I've seen for the last couple of months. Donald Trump. He headlined something I'd never heard of before, which is the Al Smith Memorial Foundation dinner in New York City. Now, it involves prominent politicians from around the country. taking the opportunity. It's a Catholic church fundraiser, Joe, so you'd love it. But he was allowed to get up there and have a dig at everybody in the room. And I was sitting there watching Chuck Schumer and the former governor of New York, Michael Bloomberg, sitting there with these stony faces, not wishing to smile or laugh. Have a look at the great Donald here. Have a look at this.
As you may have seen, Kamala did an interview on Fox News yesterday. It went so poorly for her that the Democrats have been forced to install another 100 drop boxes throughout the city. And the upside really is Kamala now sees the benefit of deportation. She wants to deport people. She's vicious. She wants to deport people, and she wants to start by deporting Brett Baer, Fox.
I tell you, he didn't back off at all. Some of the gags that were written were really tasteless. Amanda, Kamala Harris chose not to attend. Good decision, bad decision?
I think it's a bad decision. If you're wanting to lead a country, you're going to have to attend things you like and you don't like. That's just part of the role. And it also shows good sportsmanship to turn up to things that you don't particularly like doing. You know, that's what we expect from our leaders. And it's a missed opportunity for her. If you turn up and you can engage and you can show people that I'm lighthearted, but I can still, you know, be in the same room as my opposition, people would actually respect you for that.
James Morrow agreed, exposing Donald Trump's genius in roasting Kamala Harris.
Naturally, Kamala Harris was the target of much of the routine. Have a look at this.
Campaigning can take a toll on a family and family life, although I hear that Kamala and her husband carve out some really beautiful alone time at the end of the day for an intimate dinner, just Doug, her, and the teleprompter that she uses quite well.
That is wonderful. And that, of course, is something Kamala Harris is incapable of doing. Absolutely incapable of doing. I'm putting a couple of your comments up here. Well, more than a couple. Many comments. Now, we're going to end the show here with a fantastic segment. This shows you how crazy the mainstream media can be, not just in Canada, but in the United States. Donald Trump did something on the weekend that was fabulous. He went to a McDonald's in Pennsylvania and he cooked and served French fries. Now this drove journalists, left-wing journalists crazy. Donald Trump can't do that. Donald Trump can't act like he understands ordinary workers when of course he does. This guy was a contractor who had to deal with union. He had to deal with construction workers. He had to deal with hotel staff. He had to deal with ordinary people. Kamala Harris has never had to deal with ordinary people. Her whole life has been one of being pushed forward because of equity. She was a horrible prosecutor in California. She has been horrible in every job she ever did, but she keeps getting promoted nonetheless. And I love what Donald Trump did in Pennsylvania.
McDonald's customers were shocked over the weekend after they were greeted by Donald Trump at the drive-through window of a McDonald's restaurant in Philadelphia.
Everybody. Hey, it's crazy. I'm having a lot of fun here, everybody.
Oh my God, oh my God.
Hello, everybody.
You can take this, right?
Donald Trump immediately got to work swapping his suit jacket for an apron to start his shift.
That's great, thank you. Okay. I think it's good. You want to do it? Yeah.
Donald Trump worked the floor across the entire McDonald's restaurant, from salting fries.
So grab that.
Let me give him extra salt.
No. Yep. Oh, yep, good. Right there. And then we're going to grab the fry scoop right here.
Right.
Put it into there and just give them a twirl that way.
To having a chat with customers at the drive-thru.
I could do this all day. I wouldn't mind this job. I like this job. I think I might come back and do it again.
Thank you.
Look at that. Look at that. How are you?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Nice to see you.
You made it possible for ordinary people like us to meet you.
You're not ordinary.
I mean, thank you so much for everything you're doing.
I can see.
We pray for you, and you are the type of person we want to be the president.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So nice.
This is a man who relates to real people because he's a real person. You know, I'm not in the bag for Donald Trump. He says things I don't like. I don't know where he is on Ukraine half the time. But my God, he is the only alternative to a disaster in the making with Kamala Harris. And I like so much of what Donald Trump does because he's normal. He's an average guy who thinks and acts like an average guy and who knows how to manage people. He knows how to deal with real people. And he has common sense solutions to most of the problems being presented. He's not talking about putting billions of dollars into Soviet style housing or forcing grocery stores to lower their prices because that's price gouging. And I really, really like what Trump is doing. So many, he is the only choice. You know, I got this cup here, and I'll show you that more after his first inauguration. I went down to Washington afterwards, but in terms of who is available in this next election, and I'm so excited about the fact RFK Jr. is on side with him on so many issues. We might actually get some change. I'm not betting on it 100%, but we might get some change and some movement against the deep state.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I took a bullet. That's right.
Thank you, Mr. President.
When you think about it, I guess that's right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And meeting fans desperate to save America.
A lot of fun here, everybody.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Look at all the fake news over there. Hello, everybody.
You can fake this,
And
right?
you know this is compliments of Trump, okay?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you. Mr. President,
Yes.
please don't let the United States become Brazil, my native Brazil.
We'll keep it
Please,
good.
Please,
We're going to
please.
make it better than ever, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, Mr.
Compliments
President.
of Trump.
Yes.
Have a good time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you over there. Have a good time.
Thank
Nice
you.
to see
You
you.
too.
Bye,
Nice to
darling.
see you.
Have a good time. Thank you.
And it wasn't only the inside of the McDonald's restaurant that was abuzz. Voters in the key battleground state of Philadelphia lined the surrounding streets, waving flags and cheering USA, USA.
Yeah, that was wonderful TV. Now I ask you this as we get to the end of the show here. Can you imagine Donald Trump not being able to do this? This is how he loves to talk to people. And can you imagine Kamala Harris trying to do this? Just for a minute. Can you imagine? It would be a disaster because she couldn't choreograph it because you're dealing with people at the window who are real, who haven't read the Democratic Party talking points and wouldn't know what to say. They wouldn't be in on the choreography. They wouldn't be in on the play. And that's why it would fail miserably for Kamala Harris. So we're having an exciting week here. I want to show a few more of your comments. Yeah, you never see support like that for Harris. So true. So this is an exciting week, folks. This is an exciting week. We're going to see what happens to Justin Trudeau. He will be facing off with MPs and caucus this week, one way or the other. They have to come through. Whether or not it's going to have any effect, I don't know. That's up to whether or not these MPs have the intestinal fortitude to follow through and to make some demands. And I think we had better see some real pushback from Pierre Poilievre in the House today in question period. Be watching because this is going to be an exciting question period, even though Trudeau will probably not be there today. But Poilievre will be warming up for the day that Justin Trudeau is in question period, probably Wednesday, where he can face off with him and say, how dare you malign my entire caucus with your smear campaign? I'm looking forward to seeing that. Thanks for watching today, folks. Remember, this show is about giving you all the news you need to know so we can all resolve to resist. Thanks for watching.